Hello everyone, it's Bonita from Pennies to Dollars, and today I thought we would talk about mothers and how important mothers were in frugality when I was growing up. When I grew up, my mother was intelligent. She was courageous. She was strong. There wasn't anything that she couldn't do, wouldn't do. She would get on a tractor and ride it and plow fields. She would do everything that a man would do, and yet she still was able to keep things under control in the home when it came to finances. And I don't think that that is unusual if you look at it even from today's point of view. Women still work outside of the home. A lot of times there's one person in the household that will control the finances, and many times it's the woman. So I thought we would talk a little bit about how that occurred when I was growing up. My mom was in charge of the food preservation. She canned, she stored it, and we used cellars back then, and she distributed it to the family. So she was in charge of the whole storage and distribution, kind of like a business. We had cellars where we preserved our food. She canned jelly, she canned pears, she canned vegetables, tomatoes. We only had 3 meals per day. We didn't have any packaged snacks. We had meat, potato, and a vegetable, sometimes a fruit if we grew a fruit, but we had a balanced meal without a food pyramid guideline. And Dad always said he wanted us to have something that would stick to our ribs. And by that, he meant he wanted something that we would be full and that we would be able to make it until the next meal. We didn't get hungry between those meals because this was our normal pattern of life. This is the way we did things. Food wasn't always something that we wanted or something that we liked or our favorite, but it was something to make sure that we were fed, nourished, and that we were full and satisfied and able to go on to the next thing. Food has become entertainment in the day that we live now. We look at food as something we do to go out with friends, something we do when we are bored, something we do on anniversaries, something we do as a family. None of those things happened when I was growing up. All family entertainment wasn't around food or around a meal. It was around other things that we did. But we didn't have granola bars, Pop-Tarts, fruit snacks. We didn't have any of those prepackaged items. My mom sewed clothes. We did have some things that were purchased, like my dad's overalls, but she patched them, she repaired them, she made sure that they continued to last. And Dad didn't care what they looked like because he was wearing them to work in. So it didn't matter if they had a lot of patches. And then he had his good overalls that he wore to town. And then he had what he called waist pants that he would wear to like funerals or weddings that actually had a belt. And he hated wearing waist pants. He wore overalls if that was his choice. That's what he would choose every single day. And so we had work clothes, and they were patched and they were repaired. But every single thing that could possibly be used was used and reused. And so I wanted to know if you could remember making these kinds of pot holders. These were made on a loom, and it was a metal square that had little prongs, and we would take socks, tube socks, whatever, and cut them spiral all the way down. And this was something that I could do as a child to contribute, and I thought it was fun and I enjoyed it, but I was actually helping the family without even realizing it. And so we would take old material. If it was kind of stretchy, maybe we would double it. This one had a double because in the middle that you threaded through a double piece of fabric because it was a thin fabric, and so you wanted to make sure it was thick enough and tight enough that you weren't going to get burnt. And so I just wanted to remind you about looms. I also was given a little spiral, I think it was called a spooladoo. You can tell me if I'm wrong, I can't remember. And I would make these types of hot pads, and it would make a long crocheted tube, and then we would put them together and sew them together and make hot pads out of these. These were more decorative, like you could sit it on the table and put your food on it in dishes when you ate, because they were kind of thin and you could sometimes get a little burnt if you tried to take something out of the oven unless you used two. But these were the fancy ones that we used on the table for holidays. We had basic needs, we had simple needs, and those needs were met. And I think so much today that we're looking for more than those simple basic needs, and that's what gets us into financial trouble. We're always looking for the next best, newest thing, instead of just using what we know will work and what we know we can use, and use that extra money somewhere else in our budget. I learned a lot from her by observing her and reflecting on her. Things that I have carried forward today. I never really learned to sew or to can, but I did learn how to live frugally. And there was times in my early 20s when I first moved out that I wanted better and I wanted different. And then I found that those ways were very expensive. And I have reverted back to a lot of the ways that I was raised, because I found that I can use that extra money somewhere else. Even when we cleaned, we would use a rag and we would use a broom. Sometimes we used the rag to mop the floor on our hands and knees. I don't ever remember us having a mop, just a rag and a broom. And we would use homemade solutions to clean with. Maybe some dish soap and some water. We didn't buy anything off of the store shelves. I'm not even sure what was available back then, because it wasn't even anything that I thought about, because we just didn't use that. We didn't buy that. And that's some of the places that we can really cut when we look at grocery shopping now. We don't need all of these fancy cleaners. We don't need the best, newest, most up-to-date of anything. My phone that I use right now is an iPhone 8. And someone told me the other day we're up to an iPhone 14 now. I thought it was an iPhone 11. This is how interested I am in these things. I'm just not interested. If I have a phone and it works and it meets my needs, that I'm satisfied with that. So I think the key to living frugally is to be satisfied with what you have. I just wanted to reflect a little bit on mothers and their important role now and then in keeping a frugal household, a simple household, and a well-maintained household without spending a lot of money. I hope this was helpful to you today, and thank you for watching. If it was, please give me a thumbs up. I would appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next video.